Welcome everyone. This is another edition today of our special Behind the Smiles video series. My name is Ian. I'm our content manager with Yapi.
And I'm Dr. Gina Dorfman. I'm one of the co-founders at Yapi. I'm a practicing dentist and a mom of two wonderful children. Welcome. It is a huge pleasure today to have a repeat guest, Pardue, Salisbury, and my hero, the woman that I absolutely adore, the woman that probably changed my career in so many ways, Sandy Perdue.
Oh, it's so good to be here. Yes.
Thanks for having us.
Yes.
We're so excited to have you guys today. Sandy, we really like to kind of know a little bit of background story as to how you even came into dentistry, because I know that probably in the start that wasn't where you kind of probably envisioned going, was it?
And not in life, no. You know what? I thought I was going to be a teacher. And then I ended up actually what I'm doing now really aligns with that. But that's kind of where I thought I would go early on, and I went to LSU. I got married. About 3 years later, I had Dana. I worked in a dental office for a short time before Dana came. It was time for her to go to kindergarten. I was like, you know what? I cannot wait to go to work, because I was actually friends with all the soap opera stars. Okay, that was my day. And I'd get up in the morning and get the house going and cook dinner like a good Southern wife, and could not wait to get with people. So I had heard about a dental practice here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and this dentist that was doing $1.2 million in 1985. So I was fortunate enough to land that job, and there were like 70 applicants is what they tell me. And I got the job and I became office manager. And that was one of the best things that ever happened to me, because I walked into this very well organized practice. So the things that are popular now that people are talking about, we were already doing that. So there were procedure manuals for every position. Statistics. We were keeping all the numbers, and now that's the cool thing to do. There were checklists and guidelines and staff training. So I spent a lot of the day making sure that staff knew how to answer the phone, and if they made mistakes, I'd bring them back to the staff training room and work with them. And so we were doing that way back then. So people traveled from around the world to see the practice, and they asked, can Sandy come to my practice? And I first started giving seminars in like 1989, 1990, and that's how it all started.
I saw you at the Townie meeting for the first time, and it's incredible when you meet someone online and you get to know them just by reading their post, and all of a sudden you feel like you know them really well. And then when you meet them, it's that instant like, oh my God, you're my friend, I love you.
And these are the days before Facebook too. So it's not like, I mean, you just saw their avatar, right? And their handle, and,
that's right.
And that was them. And it was just mind blowing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I think at the time I started using my photo probably in 2005, but before that, it was just a picture of an American flag, and
right.
And so we met in person, and then you said, Gina, I have something for you. And you gave me that flip chart, that, burgundy little book. And I was blown away.
Right.
I couldn't get enough of it. I took it back to my office. We all sat and read it. And that's what built my practice. That little, and you just gave it to me. You barely knew me. And that generosity just blows me away. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome.
Yeah, and that's what our vision is to grow practices and help people. And dentistry has always been known as a very lonely profession. Mm-hmm. So we don't feel that it should be that way. And in any industry, in any sport, you have an advisor, you have a coach, and that's who we are. So, even doing it for free, getting paid is nice, but, doing it for free is very rewarding.
Yeah, you have to take the dollar signs out of your eyes and look at the bigger picture. So what is the bigger picture? And that was one of the deciding factors for me for leaving the practice, was I loved my job so much. Mm-hmm. I don't tell many people this, but I cried almost every day for a year before I left. Every time the thought of, you should be a consultant. Come on, we'll get you set it up. And I'd like, okay, I'll do it. And then I'm like, The reality was that I don't want to leave. I love my job. I thought I had
Right.
the best job in the world.
Yeah.
And so then I thought, well, I can help all these patients, which I found rewarding because I love to jump in when the schedule needed some work and call patients and really like to be hands-on. And so I thought, well, you know what? It's a much bigger picture if I could help hundreds, if not thousands, of dental front office teams and teams in general, because we work in every part of the practice, get better at what they do, get more treatment acceptance. That's just a whole bigger game, and I'm going for it. And so that's what happened.
I'm really curious to know, starting out those years ago in dentistry and seeing the changes today that we have with technology, with texting, with email, were some of the common challenges that you saw back then still reflective of today, or have they completely changed?
Oh, yes. I'd say they're pretty much the same. We're dealing with people that are not lined up waiting to get into the dental chair. That's what people sometimes lose sight of, especially if you're new to the industry. It's like, the reality is people, less than half the people are going to the dentist every year. And that's really what we face. That is the number one challenge. So if it were like, I always say this, like an Elton John concert and people were lined up waiting to get in, half our problems would be over, right? People would throw a credit card number at us. Yeah. They would wait. There would be no objections, but it's just not the case.
I mean, throughout all timelines and geographical locations. I mean, it's just anywhere, any office, and the office in California is having the same problems in New York City, the same problems in Canada, the same problems literally a mile down the road. It is all the same.
That's right. It's true. So.
And I think a lot of times that's what we talk about, that we really need to be mindful of what's happening within our practices, because a lot of times we get ourselves in that mentality that, oh, it's impossible to find employees in this town. And of course, smaller towns probably have different challenges than bigger towns.
Yes.
But it's hard to find good people in general, right?
Yes.
And and people don't want to pay. It doesn't matter whether you're in Beverly Hills or in Hollywood or in Baton Rouge. Sometimes people don't want to pay for health. So challenges are the same. And then you see two practices right across from one another, right? And one is thriving and the other one is not.
Yeah.
Actually, while we're talking about that, what are some of the characteristics of thriving practices? What do all thriving practices have in common?
This is one of my favorite topics because I say this all the time. It's like, people say, oh, Sandy, it's the weather. Or, we had a lot of rain today, or, the kids are going back to school. Well, I'll say, okay, well, I'll look at maybe a couple of blocks of one street where there's 4 or 5 practices, and one is doing 3 million with one doctor. Another one doesn't have enough patients for the doctor to work more than 1 day a week. Okay, this is actually happening about, shouldn't tell you but not far from where I am right now. And so, my point being, this one practice that has patients flowing in, no marketing, unbelievable production, 80, 90 units of Crown and Bridge a month, next to practices that are struggling. One had to close recently that was within a block of this other practice. So what you do in your office within your own 4 walls, that's what I say all the time, will determine your success. And a lot of it has to do with how the telephones are answered, what the first contact with that practice, the way that patient gets a feeling if they belong there, or maybe they're calling for a certain procedure, but guess what? They're told you can't have that. I'll give you just a quick example of that one thing. I was going to bring, we were going on vacation recently, and I wanted to bring my dog to be groomed before we put her in with the kennel. So I called around. Our normal groomer could not see her for 2 weeks, and I needed something right away. So I called one place, and I was going to send her there. Okay, I had already decided that's where we were going to go. Well, when the guy answered the phone, I said, I'd like to make an appointment for my Pomeranian to come in and be groomed. And he started saying, oh, we are so good. We have 3 groomers, it's more like a spa day for your dog. We're going to give her a little massage. We're going to do this and that. And he kept talking. And the more he talked, the less I wanted to go.
Right.
So now I called to make an appointment. He literally talked me out of it because he kept trying to sell me on all the things that they could do. So I didn't make an appointment. I took her somewhere else.
Right.
So the phone is that first contact. It sets the tone.
You've got to have the best communicator and not one that's just going to just like keep, again, trying to reconvince you when you've called, you're ready to close the deal.
Right. Give them the appointment.
Give them the appointment. Give them what they want. Like, it's not a big deal.
And I see that happening a lot, actually.
Yeah.
In the
Oh, it happens a whole lot. And even with my mystery shopper calls, just, the office, the home base, the mothership, they need to lead the conversation. Lead it. Like, I'm definitely your more outspoken customer or patient. And if you're not going to lead while we're dancing, I'm going to take over. Right. And that's not what you want to happen. So, lead the conversation and don't talk them out of it. If they want to make an appointment, stop talking. Just get them
that's
in.
just one thing, though, the phone. Okay. So the phone, how they're greeted, how they're welcomed, how soon they could get in for the appointment. Are they having to wait too long? Then once they arrive, what's that experience like? So the practice that is going to grow and keep the patient, the experience is different from the other ones, okay, from the ones that are struggling, because that's what the patient is coming back for. You wanted an experience to be like, they don't even know why they like it there. It smells so good. They love the smell, kind of like where I get my hair cut. It's like, too expensive. It's ridiculous, but I love the way it smells. I like the way they make me feel. I like everything about that experience. So that's what people come for. And then also the way the treatment is presented, all of those things make the difference. The personalities of the people.
And the leader.
Absolutely.
The leader. If the leader can't set forth what is expected of their team, if they can't confront if there's an issue in the office and they cower, you've got to be a strong leader. It's not an option. You, as a dentist, you went to school for all of these years. You took out who knows how much money in loans, right? Depending obviously on where you open your practice and where you went to school. And now you're going to have someone come in and they're looking to you. A lot of times you have someone really willing. They don't know what to do in their position. They're looking at you like, okay, well, what do you want me to do during the day? You've got to lay out what you expect of them, or they're going to do it. They're going to make it up.
So that they really provide that patient experience, so that patient wants to stay in the practice. Then another thing is retention, like the practice that has the active patients coming back, the high patient retention, more patient referrals, the difference, the one on the block, like you said, that have that busy practice, they have good patient retention, and they use something like Yapi, which I refer people all the time to Yapi, that I absolutely love. In fact, I just did a post, I think it was on Dentaltown, either Dentaltown or Facebook last night, about how I love the flexibility with setting up the recall, and you guys have just enough contact with the patient.
It's done just right. Yes. I know. Actually, I thought about you and you guys just because I thought you would find it funny, but I got a text from my eye doctor and last week, and I haven't been there since I was pregnant with Emma, which is 4.5 years ago. Okay. And they're like, our office moved.
Oh, this is an old.
Yeah, it was like our office moved
your former
for your
doctor.
next. Yeah, not my current eye doctor. But our office has moved, and we look forward to seeing you at the new location. And I'm going, I left there upset 4.5 years ago.
They never even realized.
You never reached out to me. You never and now I get a text about your new location. I will not be there. I mean, come on.
Yeah, which is another thing is we're real big on patients be getting treated so that they are really happy, and the staff recognize when a patient comes in and they could be a little upset about something that happened, or maybe they weren't given what they thought they were going to get. Yeah. And so we train the teams to really be looking for that, and someone from the practice contact that patient like that day. And we get it all worked out, or at least learn that they're never coming back and they don't continue to recall them. But to get it turned around, because that in itself, that's a really fun job to call these upset patients. Not that we like upset patients, but I love calling upset patients. And
we love the resolution.
And turning it around and making them happy again, because they're going to go out and tell about 25 people when you upset them over something.
Well, now with social media, they're going to tell.
Oh, it's going to be hundreds. Yes, if not thousands.
Yes. And, you say run towards your upset patients, not away from them. And that is so true. And, I recently noticed a number of posts on Facebook where doctors are upset about a patient suddenly, someone they haven't seen in several years, all of a sudden they come back and post a review for them, a negative review on like Yelp or Google. And the doctors are like, well, they're not even a patient of record anymore.
Right.
But I think a lot of times what triggers that is that type of communication that, not only they already left upset, they forgot about you, they're going somewhere else. And now they're getting a text message or some kind of reminder from the practice that's just so indifferent.
Yes. And a lot of times the practices get real defensive about it. But if we look back and start researching, the patient a lot of times had every reason to be upset. Every reason. So it's not always the patient's fault.
That's true. And a lot of it is miscommunication. Maybe
absolutely
that happened, but it's miscommunication. A lot of reviews that we read, some of them are very emotional about, overcoming some, fears or finding a great dentist after, so many years of frustration with dentistry. But others are very, oh, they're so nice and the office is so clean and it smells wonderful. And you're like, where have you been before? But then you're right. I mean, it takes so little to make them happy. And if we communicate well, then
some acknowledgement. Sometimes they just need acknowledgement when they say, oh, I've been so busy and stressed at work. And boy, it sounds like you've been busy, Mrs. Jones. Well, sit down and relax. We're going to take good care of you. This is going to be an hour that you're not going to have to think about work. Those things make a difference.
And they feel heard.
And the phone, that's the most important instrument in the practice. And the practice needs to pay attention to the phone.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to this afternoon. I plan on listening to some recorded calls from practices. That's another thing I love to do. And I hear the same mistakes over and over again. The listeners need to just hang on to 99% of the people calling are calling for an appointment.
One thing that I wanted to go back to that you've mentioned when we started talking about the telephone is that a lot of times, their impression of the practice happens within the first 4 to 10 seconds of that phone being answered, right? And we know, just like with your groomer story, how many times you go into a restaurant and it just doesn't feel right. And you walk out immediately. You don't look at the menu. You don't talk to anyone.
That has happened to me. I'll tell my husband.
No. We do that with hotel rooms too. We're like,
don't tell people that, Dana. But we take advantage of the platinum status, and you get in a room and you're like,
secrets told. I don't know.
This bedspread. Do you have a different room?
That's a little less Golden Girls, more chic.
The same thing happens. It happens when patients call our practice. Something tells them. We hear from dentists that new patient appointments have the highest last-minute cancellation rate or no-show rate, right? And you wonder, is it really because new patients are flaky? Maybe something to do with it. But I think it's what you said. I think it's how the phone was handled, how they felt. They're not going to walk out. They're already on the phone. So they'll make an appointment. Then they'll hang up and they'll just have that feeling that.
That's why you have to get them in quickly. So
for years, we recorded every single call. For 15 years, every call that went in or out of the practice. If somebody made an appointment and they did not come, we would go find the call and listen. We'd bring in the person that took the call, come on back to my office, let's listen to the call. What went wrong? Wow. Talk about great training. But I learned a ton. And what I learned were when new patients are calling, when they call, they're ready for an appointment. And many times they have thought about calling for a long time before they actually pick up the phone.
Right.
Okay. So we're either not getting them in fast enough, they're being put off too far into the future, which we always say less than 7 days. 7 days or less, the work days, you should get them in. Or they're being scheduled for something they don't want. Maybe they want a cleaning. That's what most people call for. They want a cleaning. Oh, but in our office, you come in for a 2-hour appointment with the doctor, and that's going to be $300. And then you're going to go home and we'll schedule another appointment to come back. And those practices have, and some people do it and do it successfully, but those practices will always have less new patients and less by referral.
And that sounds familiar.
It sounds very familiar. I actually visited a dentist not long ago, and I went in with the expectation as the patient of having a cleaning, because that's always how it's happened for me. Almost 2 years ago now, and it was time to find the practice. And I walked in, and I was there for well over an hour and a half. And I sat there, and I asked them, "When's my cleaning?" And they said, "Oh, well, we scheduled that, far in advance." And then I had a $5,000 treatment plan handed to me that day.
There you go. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
So I have a friend that happened to, and then, but her perception of that consultation was that they're liars, and also that their fees were high.
Right. It gives the impression that they must be very expensive.
But now look what it's done. It's destroyed the practice name through that whole circle, everybody she works with, right? So, you really have to be careful with that.
If it were an Elton John concert, you could do anything. Okay. This is where you have to go before you get to see Elton.
Yes.
They would be like, okay, here's my credit card.
Right.
But we're in dentistry. And so that I can tell when people call me, because I talk to dentists every single day. And I say, how many new patients do you get a month? And they say 5. I know how they bring in their new patients. They say 10. I pretty much know.
Yeah.
So I don't have to ask. I just know.
Yeah. Just get them in.
Get them in. Absolutely. And, with Ian's case, unfortunately, he knew another good dentist.
Yes. That's what I was thinking.
But he ended up leaving the practice because he left with that impression. And this is where we talk about, we talked about retention earlier and running towards your upset patients. When we can carpet bomb them with all of the reminders and the postcards and if they're not responding, this is where we have to say, wait a second, what's going on?
Right.
We're not going to wait 4 years to tell them that they moved.
Right.
It's weak. A lot of the methods that are going on, it's non-confrontational and very weak.
Yeah. And I think a challenge here is, and for us, it's always been a challenge until we found, until I started, I brought this book home and we studied it, but it just wasn't enough, and it wasn't until I started sending my team to your trainings where they really learned those verbal skills, because I know that it's, most people avoid confrontation.
Yeah.
You're not really calling to create a confrontation. You're actually calling to resolve.
Make contact. Yeah.
So, of course, training is important, but what kind of advice can you give to someone who decides that, okay, I'm going to go back to my practice after listening to this, and I'm going to have Shauna or Sandy and at my front office start following up with patients. How do we handle this?
Well, we do this a couple of ways. Probably the easiest that you can do, like today, is talk to your team first off and say, okay, do we have any families that we haven't seen in a while that you guys miss? Right. That's when they
get it out of the software. Utilize
your software. But someone may say, oh yeah, that's the Smith family. Right. They have 5 kids.
Yeah, where are they?
Where did they go? And trust me, your team will think of someone, but primarily working the software, and Sandy developed a wonderful reactivation project, and just pulling the list of who hasn't been in, and just pick up the phone. And these calls take minutes.
Yeah.
They
A
take
lot
minutes.
of times a staff will feel like, well, we're just bugging people. And when you hear your team say that, that's when you know they need training.
Yeah.
Because they probably are bugging them. If they're having to call patients over and over and nothing's happening, they're getting no results, they're probably bugging them.
Yeah.
So, but you have to communicate with patients in different ways. You don't just call. So there should be text reminders. There could be emails. There could be calls and physical mail. So it needs to be a little bit of all of those things. You have
not repetitive of the
same thing. You need to mix it up, and you definitely need to utilize automation within that mix, definitely. And because it can't, some things work for some and then not for others.
And then one thing that Sandy always says, and I love this question because it's just so open and out there is, when you have someone trained that is making proactive phone calls to patients that haven't been in, simply asking, and kind of having this like the pregnant pauses in there, right? Like, Mrs. Jones, can I ask you something? And they'll say, yes. How was your last visit? And then
that's amazing question. It's like one that we teach.
They feel heard, and then you're going to find out what really happened, what their perception was of what happened.
And they might say, whenever you say, Dana, can I ask you a question? And then she goes, well, yeah. Mm-hmm. Say, how was your last visit to our office? And then she may say, I'd rather not say. And that's the opportunity now for the person from the practice calling to say, we really would like to know. I know doctor wants to know, and get them to say it. But here's the thing. When patients were coming in and they were good patients and now they've stopped, that's who gets that question. Patients were paying really well and then they stopped. That's the person that gets that question. And usually in practices, no one does anything about that.
Right.
And it's amazing what will happen because you can't get them back until you get all of those things handled with them.
That's right. And then there's a smaller percentage of people that say, well, no, you're my dentist. They just haven't been in.
Yeah. I've been
and you're like, oh, okay. Well,
let's get you scheduled.
Yeah.
But again, and also if you don't handle their real objection, like some people could be excuses, but in a way those excuses really are some kind of objection they have, whether it be fear or financial or unaware of needing to come back, whatever it is, you've got to get that handled before they'll ever schedule.
You mean cavities grow?
Like people just don't know. They get larger.
I thought my tooth would heal itself.
So we can't assume that people know all these things because they don't. So that person calling has to educate. Should have been done in the practice.
Absolutely. A lot of times that phone call sounds a little bit like, hi, Mrs. Jones. I'm just calling to schedule a cleaning for you.
Just calling.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
I don't like that just. That just calling. I can't stand it.
Yeah.
And this happens in the chair too, because you ladies are spending a lot of time in the front, and a lot of times we bring you a patient that was presented a treatment plan, and we bring them to the office. We don't do that handoff very well. And then the patient, suddenly needs to check their calendar, talk to the spouse. And then when you look back at what happened in the operatory, the patient would sometimes say, well, can't you just fill it, doc? And we immediately assume what the reservation is. We immediately assume it's finances, and we start, talk about money. We immediately assume that, patient wants to know the specific difference between a crown. We don't know why they're asking this question.
Right.
We don't know, maybe they know someone with a really ugly crown and they feel like they worry that their crown is going to look like that. Yeah. Maybe they feel like, maybe it's a younger woman who feels like crowns are for older people. We need to find out what those reservations are, whether we're on the clinical side or on the phone, before we start, jump in with our verbal diarrhea and start telling them what we think they should know.
That's right. Because a lot of times they won't schedule, or they'll schedule and then not show up.
Right. And that's another reason for no-shows.
That's right.
It's not because they didn't get the text message.
That's right.
For no show. And a lot of times when, we have those left message appointments and we're just watching them fail, they're not calling back. They know how to press yes on their cell phone.
Right.
Yes. Right.
It's not coming.
Right.
They're on the fence. They got the message and they're like, do I really want to do this today? Do I really need this? How do we handle that? Talk about the schedule.
Well, a lot of the things that is happening in practices is that they are processing the people. In other words, just not paying attention to detail to each person. Okay, so that's number one. So first off, no one gets on the schedule without a financial arrangement signed. Okay, that's huge. We go in practices all the time and we see that they're just processing them. Sometimes the front office isn't even looking up to the patient. They just know someone walked and they're like, okay, we need to get you back. Okay, they're going to do that crown. We
Friday
need
at
an hour.
10.
Friday at 10. Okay. And then, okay, you think that patient's going to come if they have any reservation, if they have some objection that's not handled, if they're wondering how much it's going to cost, they're guessing how much it's going to cost. And then it's all around what the insurance will pay.
Yeah.
But if nothing's done, it's only going to get worse and cost more. So that's why we say, well, okay, as part of the scheduling, we have something we call the appointment wrap-up. Now, the appointment wrap-up has a lot to do with the schedule and a lot to do with case acceptance and less broken appointments, because the appointment wrap-up works like this. It starts in the treatment room, whether it's in hygiene or in doctor's chair. And at the end of the appointment, the doctor leaves the operatory. The assistant or hygienist are still there. They leave the bib on the patient in the chair. And they go over everything that happened that day. Okay? They're going to tell the patient, this is what we did, and any post-op instructions, and what needs to happen next. After those things are handled, what we did today, post-op instructions, what needs to happen next. Now the bib comes off. I'm going to bring you up front, and Susan is going to get you scheduled. Now, walk up front. Now you have the handoff, where now the hygienist or assistant will repeat what needs to happen. So she's not just going to let the patient wander up the hall, make it to the front desk by herself, right? So they get routed to the front with that technical team member, hand off to the administrative person and repeat what doctor wants to do next. And then they go back in the operatory and prepare for their next patient. They don't sit there and say, okay, so tell me, what color are you painting your bathroom? And what, and because now that breaks it all up and the patient forgets everything they just heard. So they need to get all that done back in the back, and now it's business. And they make that handoff right there. Now that front office person, depending on the model, some will go ahead and just send them over to the financial person. Maybe it's one person at the front who's going to check out, make the financial arrangements, but always those financial arrangements come before that appointment. Making sure that patient, asking them questions, if they have any questions. We never ask, do you understand what we have to do, you stupid person? You never say that, because when you ask someone if they understand, it's an invalidation of sort. So instead, do you have any questions? Once that appointment is made, they write down the next appointment. They make sure they finish putting the patient in. The patient signs the financial arrangement, and then they validate the fact that that appointment was made, and it's a really good thing. You've made a great decision. We look forward to seeing you next time, and then the patient's off. And that is very key in scheduling. Those steps right there, and putting people off far into the future makes it the chances of them breaking that appointment more likely. And we've evaluated broken appointments. I've been doing that for decades. Whenever I was a very young girl going into the dental practice, I was told by the doctor, broken appointments are not normal and they're not expected. Now you go back there and figure out why they happened. And that's where I came up with the idea of I'm going to record every call, every confirmation call, everyone coming in that's breaking appointments, and we're going to figure this out. So right now we get, in fact, Dana, I saw on the fax machine, we had like 4 pages of broken appointments come through the fax that I can't wait to look at.
We know what it says, but
it's
we're going to read it anyway.
It's the same story. Here's the patient's name. How many previous broken appointments?
Like 6, 9,
11, 7.
They owed $1,700.
Yeah, they're past due.
They're
90
not
days
coming.
past due. They made the appointment 6 months ago or 3 weeks ago. It's the same thing. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Are there Medicaid?
That's so true. We've identified a number, and actually with your help, because I was going through your post on Dental Town, picking up those reasons. And then I remember emailing to you saying, okay, is this right? And what we've done with Yapi on our huddle report that we could review before, you see, was the appointment confirmed? When was the appointment scheduled? Number of broken appointments previously, patient since whatever year, patient's age, and what was the and balance owed.
Yes.
Okay, we want to see this in line, because if you have too many of these, or like you have certain,
it tells a story.
It's
the best training for staff.
Yeah.
When they have to go back, and that's one of the first things we do with our consulting clients, and they have to go back, and every day they have to start telling us. And so they soon go after about 5 days. Wow. These people that break appointments, they have past due balances, or they were repeat offenders. Oh, yeah. So now because some of the automated software companies will tell you, oh, yeah, you need to pre-schedule 100% of your hygiene. No, you don't. About 80%.
Right. Yeah. If I owe you money, I'm not coming to dinner to your house.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I always say, staff, because I try every way to get them to like really get it, right? When somebody owes you money, they're, have the effect that it has. So I say, okay, who in here has had a dog? And they raise their hand. When the dog goes to potty in the middle of your new rug and you walk in the room, what happens? The dog hides. That's what your patients do. When they do something against you, like not pay a bill, they're not coming.
That's true. And we actually don't like people that we owe money to. Right?
And they don't like you.
Yeah.
This is so true. I want to go back to something we were talking about earlier. Dana, you actually mentioned leadership.
Yeah.
And, with everything that we are talking about right now we can send our team members for training. We can, we can get them courses. I know you guys are also doing some videos, and, I want to hear a little bit more about this. But here's the problem that I see, and we actually see it with our customers as well. And, the doctor is not able to get their team to do what they have been taught. Okay. And that's leadership. Help us out with that. How do we as doctors learn to be better leaders and be able to get our teams to do what we're asking them to do?
Really, the first step is wanting to be a better leader and recognizing that none of us hold all of the qualities and successfully implement and execute the qualities that we need to as leaders. It's just a constant, seeking of information and how to better ourselves and our organization and our team. So it's understanding that your team should never stop learning. Constantly be on the lookout for good, consistent CE. So not contradicting each other. You don't want to send your team mixed messages, but getting everybody on board. And that's one thing we do with our new clients is we say, all right, we're going to name our mission and our goals, and everyone is going to be involved in what we're about and developing our culture. So, and realizing how important that is. So it starts there, but like Sandy said, being available, listening to your team. I'm not a fan of annual reviews. I think that you should when you hire a new team member, say, look, first day, I'm going to take you to lunch. Next week, let's have lunch. Remaining in communication constantly.
They know all the time how they're doing. It's not a surprise. Like, oh, I didn't know. They know that day if they screw up, right?
Right.
And providing, you need to provide framework in the practice for your team. Like, people need to know their job, right? They need to have a procedure manual. They need a checklist. They need regular training. They need accountability.
Yeah, accountability is huge because, we might have maybe seminar attendees. When people come to a seminar, we do give them, awesome checklists. And if they do implement that in their practice, it won't stay. If you as the leader are not looking for that checklist at the end of each week or day or whenever you want to receive these. So I kind of you like once a week.
Yes, and I like accountability with statistics as well, measuring their performance and what they're doing, like whether they're scheduler, like how well are they doing at it,
That's
and
right.
how do you measure that? Percentage of time filled, calls out, contacts made, appointments. How are they doing with that? Scheduling to production for each provider. Mm-hmm. A lot of doctors never tell their schedulers. Well, first off, they never have a scheduler.
Yeah.
I was lecturing at the county meeting, 65 people in the room. I said, okay, who's my schedulers in the room? No one raised their hand. One girl did this. I'm like,
please be proud.
I gave her a Starbucks gift card because I thought, she thinks she is, so that's good. She's the only one in the room that thinks she could be.
Another event I was at with you. Mm-hmm. Separate from that one, and you asked.
They don't know.
I think there was 2.
Now,
there was a room full of schedulers.
Yeah. So now here's the thing. Why is that important? Because the schedule is the heart of the practice. Everything happens. The doctor's production schedule, all the providers. It's based on what that person, that scheduler, created for you. Without that, you have nothing. So my goodness, you've got to crown someone as your scheduling queen, their king, your scheduling royalty. Yeah. That's got to happen. Number one, if they go back and do that right now and say, now you're in charge of the schedule. Now that doesn't mean other people don't schedule, but you're in charge to make sure that the guidelines that we've established. Oh, and another one, what should they be scheduling as far as production levels? My goodness, if you don't say, okay, Susie Q, I would like $5,000 in my chair, $1,200 in each hygiene, you're just going off good luck.
That's right. And a scheduler,
it makes no sense.
They are a salesperson. Sorry.
So you've got to tell them.
They need to know their goals.
And you won't have a roller coaster the production's here and then here and then here and then here.
Right.
Tell them what you want.
Yeah. When you reach your highest month ever, don't just go, oh, thank goodness.
We're lucky this month.
Yeah. Great. What did meet up? What did we do that got us here? Okay. Let's pump. Let's go. Just do the same thing again.
Yeah.
You never just relax. I even say it here too with my team. I'm like, if you are relaxing, it's okay. Just be really scared. Because there's always something around the corner. There's always something, and so that's just what we need to be. We need to look towards the horizon, right? So.
All the time, and working on it all the time.
Speaking of the horizon, what's in the future? We know what you guys are doing now, but tell us what's coming up. When we do this a year from now, we should schedule that. When we do this a year from now, what are we going to talk about?
Just remember, you know the drill. Okay? You know the drill. Now, we came up with that title a while back, and we've been working on videos. Our library is growing.
Yes.
And we're just finished. We just finished a nice recording area. And it's pretty high tech, actually. It really is. I'm not sure what we're going to do with all that technology, but we do have it. And so we're going to really be pumping out a lot of these training videos that are right now available to our clients.
Yeah.
But in the future, we will be letting anyone have a subscription.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're really excited. And they're based on our systems.
Awesome.
And so that's coming. So just remember, you know the drill.
You know the drill. And hopefully more seminars, but availability is hard, with schedules and all. So I love a good seminar. I love when we do, of course, our Academy for Scheduling Excellence.
Which is always a sales out.
Yeah,
always.
Spice Up is super, super fun, as you know. And I'd love to do a session, maybe just office manager training.
Oh, yeah.
That's
needed.
That's a juicy topic. So.
Yes. And as we go forward and you're creating more content, I'd love to see some more content for the back office because I just, there are a lot of clinical courses, but the back office needs good verbal skills.
Our the drill has that. So we put that in our the drill. So we have for the doctor, for the dental assistant, and the hygienist.
Oh, wow.
We've already made a lot of those, actually.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Well, ladies, thank you so much. This went by so fast. I
can't believe it.
I know. Thank you, guys. We're such huge fans of yours.
Yes, we love Yapi, and we love. Yesterday, I was in a office in Mandeville, Louisiana. That Yapi users, and they love their Yapi.
Yeah, we love clients with Yapi, so makes our job easier.
So much. Thank you for everything. Well, guys, this is Dana and Sandy, and now you know the drill.
Yes.
Yeah, she did that.